guys. Oh, there's a lot of you. Oh, they're eating. Hi, Zizaran here with another build guide for the Cohhilition, and this is a Shield Crush build. This is extremely good at clearing and can still do bosses, but if you're really looking for like the most insane Leaguestarter killing bosses, we do have other guides like EA and DD that are super embracing the meta. You can see in the background, those bleed pops are insanely nice, and it's basically from the Gladiator Ascendancy. So every time we hit a monster in a pack, it's huge explosion. It's really nice and feels incredibly good to play. Bit of a word of warning, this build might be a little slow to come online because until we have that Cruel Ascendancy, so around level 50 to 55, it is a little slow to get going. And then once you have that, it'll feel really great. It is a great build to make currency to go other builds, maybe buy yourself an Omniscience, etc. and do some really advanced builds later. So Zizaran, show us how we play the build. So the Corrupting Fever, the way it works is that as long as you're using enough life, then it's going to reapply itself. So you can see the timer is never going to expire as long as you're actually using life. If it does expire, you just reapply it. You're going to Blood Rage at the start of the map. That'll give you the Blood Rage buff. So you do kind of want to like have the momentum while going through the map. You can see we're getting really nice bleed explosions here, which is just amazing for clear. That is definitely the best thing in the build, that we are going to have those bleed explosions. And while we don't have the most insane single target damage of all the builds, we have probably one of the best clearers of all the builds. Whenever we do get to an enemy with a lot of HP, we can activate our Pride, which we have on Divine Blessing. This we get as a buff, and you're basically going to have to reapply that for a longer fight. Other than that, you're basically just shield charging around. I also have a Flame Dash. You can put that on any bar you want. I have it on my second bar. And you have a Enduring Cry on mouse button 1. Because we have the Call to Arms node, it is going to be basically auto casting for you, which is a really nice life regen buff now and again, as well as endurance charges whenever there's enough monster power in range. As you can see, really nice bleed explosions. And for bosses, you're basically just going to be using Corrupting Fever once at the start, and then hopefully that should be staying up the entire fight. It is a big part of our damage, so that's pretty much how the build plays. So as normal, we're using Path of Building, a third-party tool, and we have a link in the description for both a video and just a link on how to download it. Once you have it, you can import the build, and it'll be very step by step. So it'll show you what to take on the way. The ascendancy points are being taken as well, so very easy to follow which one you're taking first. We do also have a cluster setup, so we have two different ones. We have one without clusters where you are close to 98, and once you get clusters, you could drop those nodes over there, and then this is what it would look like. The bandit for this build is just kill them all for the skill point, and the Pantheon is Brian King and Soul of Gargan. So in the skills, we actually start off with our endgame skill, which obviously a lot of people enjoy, and we have Shield Crush, Onslaught, Chance to Bleed. Very early on during War Banner, you can drop this for additional damage on bosses. It'll basically give you adrenaline, so you're charging up the War Banner while killing things, and then yeah, you drop it. Early on for movement, we can use Dash, and then later Leap Slam. It's a little bit about preference, and later once we get to Act 3, we get the Flame Dash from the library. We have a new thing that we've started doing called Previous Gems. So for example, here at level 61, we're adding Blood Rage, we're adding Herald of Purity, we're adding Flesh and Stone, and these are the gems that are being kept. In previous gems, we don't add on all the support gems. That means they've just not changed. So Shield Crush would still be using Shield Crush, Onslaught, and Chance to Bleed. It just gives you a chance to keep track of what is being used from the previous sockets so that you don't end up with like a superfluous amount of gem sockets. So at level 38, this is what Shield Crush would look like. We're still using Onslaught, Brutality, Melee Fist, and if you do have a tab ability at this point, you could use Cruelty and Life Tab. Cast when I was taken with Molten Shell, and do be careful, don't level your Cast when I was taken past level 1 and your Molten Shell past level 10. That's because Cast when I was taken, it works on required levels. So if the required level of Cast when I was taken is 38, and required level of Molten Shell is 38 or lower, it'll cast it. So we have Blood and Sand, and this is actually pretty important in the build. That's because we're using fun charges, or also called Arena Challenger. You'll see why they're called fun charges. You want to stay in sand stance whenever you're mapping, and then you want to switch to blood stands whenever you want more damage. These are incredibly strong, and you can see it's 2% more attack and movement speed per challenger charge, so they're great to play with. Now we want to start using Corrupting Fever. You can start using that earlier on. The problem is that with Corrupting Fever, you want to make sure that you're spending life so that you're only casting it once, and that just your regular use of life skills keep it going. So if you're not life tapping your skills, you're going to actually have to manually cast Corrupting Fever all the time. So if we look at items, we have a couple of gear sets here. The early and mid game gear is basically very simple. So the build is a little different here than normal builds. We're not using a weapon to attack. We're actually using our shield, but you can still get some beneficial stats from your weapon. Early on, you are literally just looking for any weapon pretty much with attack has a chance to cause bleeding, and then that comes with the damage with bleeding stat. So it doesn't really matter what that's on, and then you can get resist, and later on, once you've unveiled it, you can craft physical damage over time multiplier. So these will still affect even though you're attacking with your shield. And for our shield, we really want as much armor as possible, and we are going to be looking for these bases. If you go to the poewiki.net/wiki/shield, you can see that it's not necessarily just the highest level base that has the most armor. So it's always the one that looks like this. So you get one at level 30, you get one at level 51, and you get one at level 67. These are the ones that have the most amount of armor. And even though the Pinnacle Tower Shield is, a higher tier item, it's just that it has slightly higher life. It does in fact not have more armor. And this is how we get our damage. So very important. You do not want to care about rolling life on your shield at all. You're not looking for like 70-80 life and a decent amount of armor. You just want to focus on as much armor as humanly possible. And just as a reference, on our endgame shield, you can get, I think you can get all the way up to 2,800 or something, but getting a shield with 2,000 is great for damage. All our other gear is just going to be life and spell suppression. Early on, I don't expect you to get much spell suppression. That's just something you're going to try to get over time, but just try to make sure that your character is resist capped. Very important. And remember, you lose resist at Act 5 and Act 10 Kitava. For your flasks, I like to have either a bubbling or a seething life flask. That makes it either half instant or instant. And I like bleed removal on that. Then you just want to get a mana flask. You are going to use mana flask pretty much until you start life tapping everything. Something that can help if you're feeling mana is really annoying. You can get life and mana leech here. And on Viridian Jewels, there is also a stat called physical damage leached as mana. So that can help you as well. Here we have a granite flask, and either if you get 4, 5, 6, or 7 charges when you're hit by an enemy, they're all great. And then you get percentage armor on that. Silver flask as soon as you can get it. And then we can start dropping Onslaught as a gem that we're using. And reduced curse effect is great on that. And we obviously want a Quicksilver, and you can get attack speed or reduced shock effect on that. In the notes section, we are going to fill in loads of notes before this goes live as well, which will answer some questions, tips and tricks, and just even more information on the build. So let's do the FAQ of things to solve for every build guide, just to make sure we've ticked all the boxes. Are there too many gems to equip? So it's a little bit intense at the end, but we do have a free socket with a stone golem. If we get a Vuln ring, then we can get the faster attacks on shield charge, which will feel really nice too. But obviously, it's already a very speedy build. Can the player have mana issues? Yeah, especially while leveling, and you're not really gonna have access to a Viridian Jewel. Like there are the nodes I pointed out, the life and mana leech, but that will incur a little bit of a respec fee. So a little bit annoying there. It depends a little bit on how you want to run your auras. So once you are level 24 and we've gotten the aura reservation node, Champion of the Cause, we have the choice where we can run Determination, Pride, and War Banner. But you'll have very little mana left over. You don't really want to drop War Banner. You could, if you're feeling mana is super annoying, drop either Determination or Pride. If you're feeling tanky enough and you don't need it, you can drop Determination. And if you feel like you have enough damage, you can just drop Pride. But especially later on, when we've life tapped everything, you will have no mana issues whatsoever on this build. Level uniques would just be your normal things like Tabitha, Goldrim, etc. There's nothing really crazy that makes this build tick. The Onslaught Ring Death Rush is really nice, but yeah, there's nothing really crazy. For quality of life and defense, etc., we are getting a large amount of armor, large amount of evasion, and we also have spell suppression. So it's a fairly tanky build. Shouldn't really die to anything in tier 16, but you also don't want to be going around face tanking huge slams or endgame bosses. For mechanical drawbacks, the biggest drawback is that it just doesn't get an insane amount of damage. It does focus very well on being a great mapper, great at doing currency and doing mechanics like different league mechanics very quickly and just making money that way, spamming essences, etc. So really nice build to set you up for the rest of the league. Obviously, I do want to say there are more insane meta builds. Some people don't like playing the most meta. As far as financial hurdles for the build, this is a very cheap build and really good on solo self-found. Very easy and a popular pick for solo self-found level 100, etc. Just because it is such a fast build, just grinds maps incredibly well. I hope you guys enjoy this build guide. Thank you so much for watching. Sub if you liked the video. And good luck in 3.18 Sentinel League. Thanks so much for watching, and try to die less than I do.